In the House versus NCAA settlement, Judge Claudia Wilken dropped a bombshell with an order on Wednesday. And that order did not approve the proposed settlement. Many have been expecting Judge Wilken to come out with approval of the settlement, but instead, she said to the parties, you need to go back to the drawing board on one particular issue, because if you don't, it is likely that she will not approve this proposed settlement. The entire college sports world has been waiting for this approval to come. And what Judge Claudia Wilken wanted to focus on is the fact that roster limits and the proposed settlement language around roster limits could potentially hurt members of the class, current student athletes, who then find themselves without a spot on a sports team roster and would have to make the decision as to whether they stayed at that institution just as a student, not an athlete, or whether they would transfer schools, and it would create a potential merry-go-round of kind of musical chairs with student athletes trying to get to different schools and ultimately find a spot where they could get on the roster. This is a major issue for Judge Wilken, as she brought it up during the April 7th approval hearing. She asked specifically to the NCAA's lawyers, is there a way to go back and possibly grandfather in student athletes who are currently on rosters so that they wouldn't lose out on their opportunity to be student athletes? And the response during that hearing on April 7th from the NCAA's lawyers was that it was a non-starter. Well, they're about to start having to deal with it now, because the judge has given them 2 weeks to meet with mediators and to work through some form of process whereby current student athletes would not be hurt by this, and to see a phased in approach where over time we would move to a place where there were roster limits, and that's just what coaches would recruit for. But if you think about it, currently there are over 5,000 student athletes in the 43 different NCAA sports that would find themselves without a place anymore on the roster of their sports team. That is a major harm in the eyes of Judge Claudia Wilken to these student athletes, these members of this class. So over the next 2 weeks, the parties will come back together, work through this particular issue. And if they cannot work through it, then it's likely that this proposed settlement will not get approved and we would ultimately go to trial. If they are able to figure out a way to grandfather in or phase in this roster limit approach, then all signs appear that Judge Wilken will approve the proposed settlement that we have. So the next 2 weeks are very important, that the NCAA, that the Power 4 schools, that they come together and figure out what a phased in approach could look like so that current student athletes are not harmed.